Hello, I am Kevin Anderson,
And I'm Adam Okada.
and we are clinical educators and hosts of the Ask the Educator podcast, brought to you by Healthmark, a Getting a company.
Are you a sterile processing technician, infection preventionist, or biomedical engineer? No matter your role, if you're involved in medical device processing, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools for excellence in medical device processing.
Now let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ask the Educator podcast. This is Kevin Anderson, your host, and with me as usual, Adam Okada. Adam, today we have as our guest on the podcast, Leslie Kronstedt, and we are going to give you, Leslie, just a brief minute here to kind of just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, let us know what you're up to. I know we're going to get into your chapter and all that and kind of discuss getting a chapter off the ground and how to make it successful and all that stuff. So, but first, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, so my name is Leslie Kronstedt, lady that writes the articles about toxic workplaces in the culture. I'm also the president of the Western Wisconsin chapter of HSPA. And just some of my background, I have my bachelor's degree in healthcare business management. I'm working on my master's. I have my LPN currently as a licensed practical nurse. I'm also working on my RN at the same time. And I went to school for sterile processing. I started doing surge tech as well. And then I currently hold my CRCST, CHL, and CIS certifications.
Excellent. So is that 3 certifications or 4?
3.
3. Okay. All right. So you got the triple crown going on. All right. So how long ago did you start in sterile processing? How many years ago about?
I started in 2016.
2016. Okay. All right. Excellent.
I fell into sterile processing through my local community college, and I was waiting for my nursing program. There was a wait list, and they were like, hey, would you you have all the credits required to take this course, and all you have to do is just show up and do the semester and you'll be done and you'll have another degree. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll add to my list. So I came in and I did the coursework, got to go out into the clinical setting and see everything. So the chapter had reached out to our local community college, and every time that they have a conference, they would invite the local students from the different community colleges across the state. And it was free. They could just come in and get an opportunity to learn. So I took advantage of that. And then once I completed my program, I was able to connect with some people through the chapter to get a job right away. And I got more involved in the chapter because so many of the coworkers that I had in my sterile processing department were very active in the chapter. So they just kind of drug me along.
That's awesome. I mean, and honestly, it's so interesting hearing people's stories of how they got into sterile processing, because I feel like nobody starts out in life being like, I'm going to be in sterile processing. Like, no one says that, right? You don't even know that job exists until somebody makes you aware of it. And then you're like, oh, that could be interesting, and I'll check that out. And then we all sort of just fall into sterile processing. But can you talk a little about your chapter experience? So you found the chapter after you had started and they helped you get a job. How did you come to be involved with your chapter?
My personality, if you haven't noticed, I'm very shy. I'm very introverted. So they kind of were like, hey, do you want to do our IT committee and be our IT committee chairperson? You're young, you understand technology, and we kind of struggle with that. And I was like, okay, sure. And then they figured out that I could write. So then I started writing the newsletters. And you can see on the chapter website, like the progression of all these years of writing the newsletters. So then I updated the website, got the chapter involved with social media. And then finally in 2020, I was elected as the incoming president-elect. And that was literally the day that everything shut down due to COVID. So and I was running the conference, so it was kind of like baptism by fire, but I did really good. I learned how to use Zoom for the first time and Teams and everything else. As a lot of our speakers were grounded at airports, so we just made it work and we got through the conference. And then with everything shut down, just being able to utilize the social media aspect that I'd already started with, I really kicked it into high gear since I was hanging out at home with my kids with nothing to do. And we were able to maintain a lot of our membership and get more people involved just because we had that social presence. I figured out that as long as you keep putting marketing stuff on there and something to interact with people, they just keep showing up all the time on your social media networks. And they're like, hey, like this lady posts this stuff every single day, a question, and then they answer at the end of the day. So they always check back, and it just kind of grew our impressions. So that was really awesome.
Wow, that's interesting, Leslie. And I think there's a couple points that you brought up that I think are important to kind of rehash a little bit. One of them, I think, is just simply somebody brought you along to the chapter meeting in the first place, and you were obviously willing. And then secondly, somebody asked you to do something to participate in the chapter. And again, you were willing. So for those of you out there, I know there's a lot of you because I talked to a lot of you at the HSPA conference that are starting chapters, or you're starting your first role as a board member or leadership member, president, or whatever, what have you. Where do you get started? Well, you might start asking people, and maybe at least grab the arm of your friend and say, hey, you're coming with me. I can't do this by myself, type of thing. And, obviously they got to be willing. But so that's, I think, a very interesting component of this whole story. Now, the fact that you started your presidency of the chapter right when COVID hit and had, a big conference thing going on, clearly there are a lot of challenges that hit you right from the get-go, right from when you got started, at least in the leadership role. So can you tell us a little bit more about, after that, kind of, a little bit after the pandemic, you're coming through it? Because I can tell you, like, and the listeners too, I've actually participated in one of your chapter meetings and spoke there, and very well done, very well attended, a lot of engagement from the people who came. So that doesn't just come out of nowhere or magically. So obviously you gave us a little bit of hints as to what you did, but if you could expound a little bit more on that.
I think a lot of it was my background in business management, and the marketing that I learned helped a lot. I don't expect anybody to go to school for that. It was really boring. I expect people to be taking care of patients. So that was one of my big goals, was to take all that information, all that tribal knowledge that I have, put it out there in a way that's digestible for people, whether you're a visual learner, if you like to watch something, if you like to read something, or you want to listen to something. I wanted to hit all those different ways to learn, do it at your own pace, and make it available for somebody step by step of how to do the stuff that I did without having to reinvent the wheel. So
it was hugely needed because, like, when I started my own chapter, and when we did that, it was essentially like the HSPA had a website. You went on the website and you looked at the things that they had listed, but they gave you no information about how to go about doing those things. So they say, get set up as a nonprofit. That sounds easy. It's a few words on a website. It says, get yourself set up as a nonprofit. But actually going and doing that, finding the forms, where do you look? How do you do that in your state? Because every state's a little bit different in how you do it.
It is.
So those resources that you have are just so needed for anybody that's wanting to start a chapter. And if you're in an area that there's just no sterile processing education, can you tell people a little bit about those resources and then how they can find them and how it's going to help them?
My chapter website, I just was like, I have this platform. It's available for anybody to get into. So if you go to the www.spp-hspa.org website, which is my chapter website, you can find it on the HSPA under chapters. And there's a section, a subtitle in the menu that says chapter resources. You click on that, and I have everything broken down into different sections. It's all organized by topics, so you could get directly to what you want. It's not just a huge, massive list you're looking at. So I have one section that's bylaws and policies, another one that's membership applications, and like welcome letter templates. So all this stuff is set up as templates, and then you just adjust it to fit your needs. I have a new binder templates, which goes over like your offerings of what your chapter offers. When you have a new member, it goes over everything. I have a section on how to run a chapter meeting, a template for meeting minutes, and then I have a treasury template with the examples of how to keep all that information organized. I have another section that is conference organization templates and Excel documents. So it breaks it down to delegating tasks specifically. You pick one person, put them in that area, and then underneath that is their tasks that they have to complete for the conference. And it's all broken up. So then everybody's doing their share. They all have their responsibilities, and you're not trying to like figure that out. It's all done for you. And that's what we've done for years. And then I have on there also how to get speakers, how to reach out to them, how to reach out to vendors with templates for recruiting them to your chapter events. Whether you're doing like a vendor exhibit, there's all these resources there for emailing them, reaching out to them. HSPA has a great vendor list already under chapter resources that was put together. And then, if you're charging them to have a booth at your exhibit to, make money so you could help spread the knowledge one way or another. There's another section of how to hold elections online via emails. So it goes through the entire election process, step by step for each of the phases, what you're sending out to each of your members, like all the verbiage, how to get people choosing the nominations, responding to the nominations, just every step of that with all the verbiage for each section is all written down for somebody to do. So it's real simple that way. That was something that was tribal knowledge again. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm just going to put it down so I don't have to keep doing that. Currently, so we had our chapter representative meeting in Las Vegas at the HSPA conference. And some of the stuff that was brought up, so I was elected as the chapter committee representative vice chair. So we got some feedback on things that people are having challenges with and what they would like to see. Some of those things were, how creating a new chapter, gain the nonprofit status, and then sign up a bank account in the chapter name. So I was working with Jeff, and he's from the other side of the state for me, but I was able to create a document that goes step by step by step of how to create your chapter. It has the resources for every state of how to get your nonprofit status with the IRS, but then with your state specifically and what's required for all of that. So I got that all broken down now. So each state, no matter where you are, this is going to lead you to the stuff of exactly how to do it. And then the process. So you can't open up your checking account and bank account until you get your nonprofit status. You need that for the bank. So it goes through that progress and the progression of steps to get it ready and going. How to get your bylaws and policies done, because you're going to probably have to submit that to the state. Choosing your initial board members. It goes over the time frame of like nominating board members and how long they have positions for. Every year we do retreats, so we figure out what stuff we learned this year and add it to our bylaws and policies. So it's a humongous document now, but I mean, it's just lots of years of kind of learning and then just adding that so other people don't have to go through it. There's something to help them through it. The other stuff that we talked about was how to figure out your like meeting locations. Where's a good place to have a meeting? Where can you have a conference? I have had meetings at airports. Turns out airports have conference rooms that you can have a meeting at. And at the time I was like, this is a great place. It's localized to everybody. So I just contacted the airport and they were like, yeah, come on in, have a meeting. So that's what we did. That was pretty cool because you could see the airplanes taking off behind us and through the windows. So that was a really neat experience. So I got ideas that I'm going to be putting down. I'm looking at different options to host virtual conferences as well. And then helping walk people through how to record on Zoom and then put that information onto your website for other people to utilize. And a lot of the stuff that I do I record everything on Zoom and then I share my screen and I show them step by step of everything that I'm doing. So then they could pause it and go back to it. And it shows visually because sometimes you read something and you're like, I don't understand what she's talking about. So then if you have that visualization, it makes it a little easier to do. So I've been working on that as well.
Sounds like you got a little bit of an educator inside of you there, where you're thinking about how to teach people how to do this stuff as you're doing it, which is fantastic. One thing I would recommend for people, because what you just mentioned was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. And now I think the best way for people to do this is if you're listening to this, whether it's in your car or in your department or whatever, you know, stop and actually check out the website and go to the resources page and check out what's there. I just did it while we were kind of talking here, and you can locate it directly by going to www.spp-hspa.org, or you can go to HSPA myhspa.org and then find it under the chapter listings. But it's right there at the top where it says chapter resources. So yeah, it's not really difficult to find. I found it very quickly. So for those of you who are out there, struggling to figure out what to do with your chapters, even if you've actually been experienced, I think this is really great because what you're doing is you're reflecting back. You're taking time to reflect back on your year and discuss what went well, what did we learn, and then update your resources accordingly. I mean, there's a lot of really valuable principles that are being put into action there within your chapter. This is the context of it is building a chapter, but you could take some of what you're doing and apply it in education or apply it in management or leadership. And so this is actually a really cool thing that you've been doing in the way that you've explained it. I mean, massive kudos to you and your team. I'm sure, like you said, you've been assigning things to people, which it does take a village to run these things and do it well. So,
Yeah.
With that, Leslie, I mean, do you have any final sort of thoughts, final words of encouragement, anything like that for all of our new or pre-existing chapter leaders out there?
I'm so thankful that somebody drugged me to a chapter event. It really gave me the opportunity to grow into a leadership position, and it really pushed my personal growth. So, because speaking publicly was challenging. I got up in front of everybody at my first conference I had to talk at, and I was shaking so bad, somebody had to hold the paper because I couldn't read it. Since then, it's gotten a lot better. I'm not as white as a ghost. And I'm not shaking so uncontrollably anymore. So I mean, it's really helped with that. I absolutely value the network of cheerleaders and mentors that my chapter provided. And then the opportunity to get involved with HSPA at a national level. So I'm one of those people where if I have some kind of challenge, I'm not just going to complain, I want to do something about it. So having that ability to get involved with my chapter and then take what I have for talents and push it up to HSPA and be involved to help resolve some of those has been a game changer. I really appreciate having that. Just having an outlet for promoting my passion for the sterile processing industry has been a huge thing. And then, like I said, if you want to find your local chapter or create one, you go to hspa.org, select About Us, select chapters, and then there's all these options to join or reach out, and then create a local one there if you need to. And of course, always reach me on LinkedIn or on our Facebook anytime. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Leslie, so much for sharing all of those chapter resources. Again, incredible resources. Trust me, as a person who started a chapter, this would have been invaluable to me. It would have saved me hours and hours and hours of trying to figure out how this was supposed to work. It's an amazing thing you've done. And really, now that it's online and it's, we're able to share that with people, it'll be there forever. So you've done something that's truly going to have a lasting impact for chapters. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
All opinions expressed on this episode are those of the presenters. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Before using any medical device, it's important to review the manufacturer's instructions for use and consult with a professional.
For any questions or feedback, please reach out to us at asktheeducator@hmark.com.